I'm here with Kevin Kirk of United Energy Trading. Kevin, can you tell us a little bit about supply chain management? What exactly is supply chain management?
Well, we had discussed this earlier. Would you like me to go into that area or something else, you know? In my opinion of what it is?
Yeah, probably just
Like Quick Trip, or how our business applies to it?
how your business relates to supply chain management, like we had talked about how you guys move from.
Okay. Our business relating to that is what we do here in this office is buy natural gas out of the ground at the lease from producers all over Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas, Arkansas, and Louisiana. And all these leases are tied to pipelines, all various pipelines that operate under their own specialized rules, and they will charge. How they make their money, the pipelines, is charged to get from point A to point B, which is usually from the lease to whatever end-use market there is, which is you know, power plants, hospitals, anything that uses natural gas. So we in Oklahoma here, there's mainly Energex and Oklahoma Natural Gas, or One Oak Gas Transmission, and we buy from different producers. On this board, the left side up here, Christopher, is supply.
Okay.
This is kind of how we track it going into months, and actually, this is almost the start of May, so there's not a lot on the market side. But what we've got is, like I just mentioned to you, Energex. It's got two zones, Energex West and Energex East. So we have roughly 5,000 a day, MMBTUs a day of supply on Energex West, and roughly the same on Energex East. There's a number of things we can do with that. You can sell it to the power generators, PSO and OG&E in Oklahoma, or if they're not using it, you can take it off system into a pipeline like Natural Gas Pipeline Company of America, that's NGPL, and they go up to Chicago. So you just got to evaluate from the lease how much it's going to cost you to get from point A to point B, and can you cover your costs. And if you can't, you don't want to buy it. And if you can, then jump in there and do it. And that's really our supply chain, you know, just here in the Tulsa office.
Okay, awesome. How would you describe how your company uses logistics?
Well, I think logistically, it's important the way we set up all of our offices. You know, we are what is considered in the gas business mid-continent, which is really based in Tulsa, Oklahoma City, down to Houston, Dallas. So it helps because it's completely a relationship business. So it helps to have an office here logistically. You don't want somebody in New York City, you know, trying to buy wellhead gas in Oklahoma,
right,
because they're not going to, you know, be down here. So we've got several offices. We've got our main headquarters are in Denver, where they work the Rocky Mountains and the West Coast. And then we've got a Houston office, which really does the Gulf Coast. We do the Mid-Continent. We've got some guys in Connecticut, you know, that do the Northeast. We've got some in Florida that do the Southeast. So I think logistically it makes sense, especially, you know, you got to be out there meeting people, and because it is a relationship business. So.
Right.
Yeah.
So why is supply chain management important to your company?
Well, the critical thing is you've got to have knowledge of the pipelines, I mean, they really run everything, and so you've got to know where there are potential constraints. You don't want to get stuck with gas you can't sell. That happens, you know. It seems like when there's too much gas, everybody has too much gas. When there's not enough, nobody has gas. So it goes like that. But you got to understand pipelines, and everyone is operated differently. They have completely different rates. They have rules that we can move gas over here, but it's going to cost you extra. But that enables us to try and carve out a margin. So I mean, just the knowledge is the most important part. You couldn't move gas anywhere if you didn't have the supply chain being the pipelines, really. You know.
Right. That makes sense. So how would you, or do you think there's any way that you could improve your supply chain?
Absolutely. You know, we do this, really, we trade on anywhere between a year at a time on packages to a day at a time. I mean, I'm trading stuff every morning, not a lot, but just a little bit, where producers that are bringing it out of the ground for us may have some problems and need to shut production down. And so we then have to figure out, okay, do we go out in the market and buy more gas to replace that, or do we cut a market, you know, a sale point? So you got to decide that every day. Hell, you got to decide it every month, you know. And we provide the opportunity for producers to fix their prices, lock it in. So say this is the NYMEX screen. Say it's up. This is a live feed of the NYMEX. So this is what's being traded right now on the trade floor. And well, that's inopportune. I'll show you how I usually handle this. I just ignore it. Sorry. Anyway, it's just we watch this and then we figure out, okay, well, what do you think it's going to do? Is it, you know, is it warming up here? Is it the price is going to go down because there's less demand? Is it going to be colder and go up and, you know, try and sell it? So, I'm sorry I got lost.
That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
What skills do you think people need to participate in supply chain management? If you were going to express to a high school student what they need to focus on while they're in school in order to be prepared for a career in supply chain management, what would those skills be?
I think melody is probably the most important aspect of our office for sure, and that's when I buy something, or Brad, who you might get to meet here in a minute, buy something and sell it, Melody is the one that knows how the pipeline works, gets into their bulletin boards, schedules the supply, and schedules the delivery off. You got to have that right, or it doesn't flow. You're cutting your markets. Your producers get mad. The end users get mad. Everybody gets angry. So Melody is really precise and accurate at what she does. She's really good on computers, and really what you need to do is best way is to get in with some sort of an internship and watch somebody. How do they do it? What are they, you know, how do they go about doing that type of business? You've got to be friendly. You got to, I mean, it's a, like I said, it's a personal relationship business, so you've got to be able to talk to people, you know, make friends, and you know, it's every day we're negotiating things, so that's part of it too. You got to know how to kind of entertain people a little bit. You've got to be good with numbers. you know.
Right.
So it was just a general accuracy and knowledge of your subject is what you got to have.
Okay. What would you say has changed the most about, or what would you say has your business done recently to try to fight the changes in the market?
Yeah. The gas business has been funny over the last 5 years. When the shale drilling really came on, and we had these huge plays in Arkansas and western Oklahoma that is bringing on tremendous amounts of gas. And so some of these large pipeline companies saw the need to build additional pipelines. So 5 years ago, there was a massive buildup of infrastructure. And whereas previously you might be able to buy gas in Tulsa for $4 and ship it up to, say, Chicago and sell it for $8,
Mm-hmm.
and make some decent margin there. Once all these pipelines went into operation, you can buy it in Tulsa, pay NGPL to move it to Chicago, and then sell it for the same price. So the value is gone because they built all of these pipelines. Now, when they build these pipelines, they go out for what they call open season, and it offers people to buy space on their pipeline for a term, say 5 to 10 years. And so a lot of these big producers bought space on pipelines and then found out that they could pay for it and get no value out of it, because now the price of the well is the same as the market in Chicago or California.
Right.
So after, I suspect, and we're coming on 5 years now, I suspect what will happen is you'll see the firm transport holders expiring, their contracts expiring. They're not going to renew them at these rates, and so you're kind of going to go back to where it was prior to constructing all these pipelines, I'm hoping, anyway, because it's hard to make a living when it's the same price all over the United States.
Right. Yeah, that definitely.
So we're kind of positioning ourselves there, and then if we see a jump in the market, it's jumped about $1 over the last few months. We can try and help our producers by fixing their prices for a term.
Mm-hmm.
Or if it goes down, we sell to a bunch of facilities. We sell to Hawley Refinery out here in western Tulsa, and you know, we can give them an opportunity to lock in for a term to minimize their risk, you know,
right,
of supply costs. So we offer that, and that's just what we're trying to do: meet more people, develop more relationships.
Awesome. What would you say would happen, how would it affect your business if the major pipeline from Canada running through the United States, if that legislation passes, what would that do to your business?
Keystone Pipeline.
Right.
Yeah. From what I understand, that's primarily a crude oil pipeline, and we, United, about 3 years ago, we got involved in crude transportation by railroad. And we began in North Dakota leasing rail cars. We now have under long-term lease about 1,800 30,000-gallon cars. And what they do is take gas out of take crude oil out of North Dakota and ship it down to Louisiana, where really the majority of refineries are, and that's really the only market for crude oil, actually. So there's a need for it in the Gulf Coast area, and there's a bunch of supply coming on in North Dakota. And so we jumped in there and began railing down. You can, at one time there was a $25 spread from North Dakota to Louisiana, and it cost about $7 to $8 a barrel to move it. So it was a lucrative business. If and when they do build that pipeline, I would say that will compete directly against our rail business. And what there is a tremendous amount of tar sands crude oil in Canada, and if we can bring that down to the Gulf Coast through the Keystone Pipeline, you're going to offset foreign dependence on crude oil, which would be a good thing overall. And
Right.
hopefully we'll figure out an angle to participate in that too.
Yeah, that would definitely help you out, I'm sure.
I hope, yeah.
Well, would you like to kind of walk us through some of the major pipelines and?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Let's look at, I've been mentioning NGPL, so let's look at this. Sorry, it's kind of dark over here. Okay, here's Oklahoma, right? Texas. This is what you call the Waha area, and it's southwest Texas, a major producing hub all up through here. So this is where gas is being produced.
Okay.
Really right in here. This is the main market, which is Chicago area, and so a lot of these utilities, NIPSCO, I think is one of them, owns a lot of this transport to move up there. So they're down here buying gas from people like us in these areas. So we buy it into the pipeline and deliver it to them right here, or we have transport to ship it to Chicago, just depending on which is best. These also move south to the Houston area and to New Orleans. So it's if you have gas here, you got to look and say, okay, does it make sense to move it down here, sell it, or move it on up to Chicago and sell it? You know, so that's one of the major ones. This is a pipeline in Wyoming, Kansas, and Nebraska, and a little bit of Colorado, and I worked on this for a while, and what we did was primarily buy gas in Wyoming and move it into Nebraska and Kansas to feed irrigators in the summertime, and it was about a 90 to 120 day business in the heat of the summer when all the crops are coming on and they're irrigating. Have you ever traveled up there and seen those pivots? They're circular. Well, most of them are run by natural gas, and so we would sell to the farmers. And we had at one time like 6,000 different meters we were selling to. Anyway, that was kind of a fun business. This is Panhandle, which is kind of a similar pipeline to NGPL in that it's an interstate and comes from Oklahoma. It goes on up into, what is that, Detroit? Is that Ohio? You know, it has different, rather than going to Chicago, it drops off a little further east. But it's the same general idea. It's pulling gas out of the mid-continent and heading it to where it's colder. You know,
right.
And that's mainly how the infrastructure was built. There's pipelines that go out to California designed the same way, but the majority of production is really right around here where we live.
That's great for business.
It is. Yeah. So that's really what we do.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Appreciate
Thank you.
your time.
You bet, man.